Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin Allen. I believe I'm live. And so I'm here today to talk to you about how we can leverage abundance and thrive in the 21st century. So I do have a presentation which I will get up onto the screen now. So let me just get that presentation into play mode. So awesome. So great to be here. Just so you do know who I am, my name is Kevin Allen. I am currently the Chief Community Officer at OpenExO, which is a global community of change makers who are transforming the world for a better future. And my road started as a pharmacist, and after reading the book Exponential Organizations, I really decided that I needed to pursue a career in transformation and using the exponential organizations model to create exponential organizations that really do make a difference out in the world. And you'll hear me talk about massive transformative purpose. And my massive transformative purpose is unlocking positive human potential. So I think everybody who's listening in can agree that technology is absolutely changing the world. And technology is moving at an exponential pace. And you can see that we've had technologies for many, many years, but it's only in the last 100 or so years that we've seen a massive spike in technologies, and they all start out really slowly but that exponential curve is what really makes a massive difference. And at the moment, we are sort of at that knee of the curve where we have absolute chaos and amazement that is happening as we see so many changes in the world. And many people might have heard this analogy, but if you walk 30 steps, you generally will head 30 meters. But if you look at 30 exponential steps, that takes you over 1 billion meters. So that's around the earth at least 27 times. And so ultimately, we just cannot really fathom what exponential is. And every aspect of our lives is currently undergoing at least these 4 Ds, which they're getting digitized, they then are disrupting, they're getting demonetized, and they then are democratized. And if we look at music as an example, music used to be a very physical thing. It was then digitized. That completely disrupted the music industry. It's now pretty much demonetized. You can listen to any song you want on YouTube for free. And that means it is democratized. Anybody has access to music. And this is happening in every aspect of our lives. And this isn't the first time that this sort of thing has happened. If we go back to 1900 with the assembly line, you'll see in the picture New York City with only 1 car. And just 13 years later, you can barely see a horse on the street. And so this is what we like to call exponential technologies. These are technologies that are doubling in their price performance every 9 to 18 months. And so therefore are becoming more and more available to people. And therefore, we're able to use these technologies to tap into abundance. There are so many things in the world that have been scarce for so many years, and these are starting to become abundant. So for example, we might speak about water as an example, and people are very concerned about water scarcity. But and the main reason being is that certain technologies are very energy dependent, and now we can essentially allow for that energy dependency to be removed through new technologies like renewable energies. And so that's that's really, really exciting. And we have so many of these technologies that are all currently converging, and that makes such a massive shift and difference to the world. So what we do see is that there are organizations that often feel like this mammoth. And I just realized I forgot to say, if you do want to ask any questions or make any comments, you can do so in the chat, and I will try and take a look at those as we go through this presentation. My setup's been a little bit disrupted. My second computer doesn't seem to be working, so I've got the comments now on my mobile phone, so I should be able to see those. So many organizations and institutions feel like this mammoth, asking, well, what can we do in this time where there is all this massive disruption that is happening? And so it was in 2014 that this book, Exponential Organizations, was published. And Salim Ismail, together with the other co-authors, what they did is they mapped over 200 different companies and said, how are they accessing and managing the abundance of the world? Companies like those that you see on the screen, how are they doing that? And essentially codified that into what we call the EXO model. And what they found is that every single organization had a massive transformative purpose. And then they had 5 attributes which allowed them to leverage abundance externally. And those are the scale attributes, and 5 attributes which allow them to manage that abundance internally. And those are the ideas attributes. And so we're going to quickly run through those to give you some understanding of those different attributes. And to start off is the massive transformative purpose. And, a massive transformative purpose, is right at the top of, Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow's new hierarchy is right at the top of Maslow's hierarchy around self-actualization. A purpose needs to be something that is guiding, is massive, is life-changing. And so that's where your massive transformative purpose sits. Some massive transformative purposes of companies that we may know and love or not love, you can see on the screen. And the massive transformative purpose, what it does is it allows that organization to really draw in great people to work for them. It draws in great customers. People want to buy products from them. If you look at an organization like Tesla, whose MTP is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, there are a lot of people who follow them because of this purpose, because of this MTP. And so once you've got that MTP, you've got that purpose, you know where you're going, you then need to say, how do we leverage the abundance that's outside of our organization, outside of our institution, our school, our nonprofit? Because inside of your organization, you might only have a few people who work for you. You might have some sort of scarcity inside of your organization. And so how do you tap into abundance that is not within your organization, but outside your organization? And so the first way you can do that is by using staff on demand. And so staff on demand is saying, well, rather than, owning your employees, how do you leverage people outside of your organization? And from a South African perspective, there's platforms, something like OCFO, which allows you to have an outsourced CFO. If you're a startup, you don't necessarily need to have a CFO in your organization initially. So how can you get tasks done in your company by people that are not, within your organization? And, this is very much linked to what many people talk about, the gig economy as an example. So how can you leverage staff on demand? And the smartest people might not work for you. And staff on demand doesn't only mean menial tasks. It could mean, very, very important tasks. Look at the Hyperloop company, which has no employees. Everybody is staff on demand. And in fact, within OpenExO, where I spend most of my time, we're all staff on demand. Everybody is working in a very gig economy type of way. The next attribute, which I think is extremely vital, my role is in community, but community and crowd is about how do you build a community around your MTP and therefore around your organization that really believe what you're doing and want to do whatever they can to make you succeed. And so if you think of an example like TED, the TEDx has people who believe in their MTP of ideas worth spreading and go out there and create events around the world in order to drive that MTP. And that's allowed TED to grow from a small event to a global media brand. And so that's one way you can leverage community. Another organization is Tesla, and I know I've spoken about them already, but they don't do any marketing because their community does most of the marketing for them. They are out there on YouTube, creating videos, creating content that's, says this is what Tesla is about. And it's amazing that, Elon Musk will go to YouTubers on shareholder calls before he goes to traditional journalists because he knows where his next sale is coming from. And so how can you build a community around your massive transformative purpose that your organization stands for? And how can you leverage that to create abundance within your organization? The next attribute is algorithms. And so a lot of people talk about data being the new gold. Everything is about data. And we need to have really good data, which is a whole other discussion. But data by itself is meaningless if you can't turn that data into insights through algorithms. So whether it's simple algorithms or really deep machine learning and recognition, computer vision, etc. But how can you build algorithms that actually take the data and turn it into valuable information? And if you look at a company like Excentia, they are using algorithms to design drugs, right? And they have one which is currently in clinical trials, and it took just 2 years to get there. And that's normally like at least a 5-year process. And so they are using algorithms to make things happen a lot quicker. And many of us have been perhaps victim to the Netflix algorithm saying this is what you want to watch next. And so, how can you use algorithms to take that data and make it very useful? The next is leveraged assets. How can you leverage assets that aren't your own? Now Airbnb and Uber use this as their business model, to actually leverage other people's assets. But a company like Aerobotics, which is providing data to farmers from either drones or satellite footage, and this is a South African company, to make them understand how their crops are, to make them better farmers, they are leveraging that asset. They're not owning it. And so how can you do that? And if you are not on the cloud and using AI services that are on the cloud, then you're not leveraging other people's assets. It's time for you to leverage those assets. And then the last attribute for abundance is engagement. How are you engaging with your customers, with your clients, with your end users to make them want to come back, to provide virtuous cycles of positive feedback? And how are you doing that? So if you've ever been to Southeast Asia and you've used Grab, you will see it is extremely engaging, much more engaging than something like Uber. Or if you've ever used iWire, it is an online game to map neurons. And so it's also something that's really, really interesting use of engagement. And so those are the 5 attributes to leverage abundance. So how are you leveraging that abundance? But abundance is massive. So how are you going to then manage that abundance internally? And it starts with interfaces. If you don't have a really good interface, it's very difficult to manage that abundance, because if you've got like human beings trying to manage that abundance, in a really poor interface, you're going to struggle. And so what interface are you using? And as a South African, if you ever go to a Takealot collection point, they have a really good interface, right? You go there, you do all the inputting yourself, and then your package will be delivered to the counter, right? Now, if you compare that to going to Home Affairs, they don't have as good an interface. Next is dashboards. If you do not know what's going on in your organization, whether it's a business, whether it's government, whether it's a non-profit, if you don't know what's going on and you are not managing your metrics, I like to use OKRs, objectives and key results, and you can go look that up. If you're not managing daily what's going on, and you're looking at last quarter or last month, you're not going to be able to keep up with the pace of change that we have in the world. Experimentation, another attribute internally that is vital. You need to be experimenting constantly. You need to look at the lean methodology of build, measure, learn, small iterations, and constantly experiment. Because what this does is it builds a culture where failure is okay. And of course, failure over and over again, the same failure is not good, but being able to fail whilst you are experimenting and moving forward, that's what we really want. We want to build a culture where that is the norm. And so experimentation within an organization, that helps tremendously with that. The next attribute, autonomy. Now, this is quite difficult for traditional organizations, but it is vital, and especially for younger millennials, Gen Zs, who really expect autonomy. Remember, we've grown up in a world where I don't have to ask for permission. I can just go online and search on Google, find out what the answer is, and then implement. I don't need to ask someone else how to do something. And so autonomy is really important. And what it does is it allows employees to be able to really take advantage of what they do best. It allows them to be more engaged at work. And we all know that engagement within the workplace is really low. I mean, many people are not engaged. And so I highly recommend looking at Buffer. They have two great Medium articles. They have a completely distributed team, no office, I think in 30 different countries, all working autonomously. And there's ways to do it. It doesn't mean you just let everybody do whatever they want. It means that you have a great MTP, everyone knows where they're going, and then people can put in their best work. The last attribute internally is social. Remember, this is facing internally. How inside of your organization are you using social tools to be able to decrease the latency of communication? How are you able to get rid of silos, have cross-functional discussions? What tools are you using to be able to really have that social aspect within your organization that allows for people to be able to talk one-to-one, less hierarchy, and therefore much swifter and faster ways of moving within the organization? And so what we found over the last couple of years since the book was released, and we've been implementing this around the world together with the OpenExO community and many others around the world, is that if you have an MTP in your organization, whether you're a business, whether you are government, whether you are a nonprofit, if you have a really, really compelling MTP and you implement at least 4 of the attributes, of course, looking at both internal and external, managing and leveraging the abundance, you can see up to 10x of an impact on for your business. And we've seen organizations, for example, in insurance, that have seen that their profits triple by understanding the dynamics of being an exponential organization. And so we've actually built this into an EXO canvas. The EXO canvas is available. It's open source. So if you want to map your organization, how exponential are you, you can do that right here on the canvas. So I have quickly run through at a fast pace, the EXO model. And I like to show this picture because it's just a bunch of dots and maybe you can see nothing, but there's a dog in this picture. And so when I remove that, you can still most likely see that dog. Hopefully you can see that dog. Whenever you see this picture for the rest of your life, you will see that dog. And so what I like to say is, I've shown you something, but the question is, how do you now go and implement it? What do you do to go out there and implement it so that you can leverage that abundance that is out there? And the first thing you can do is you can understand, how exponential you are. There's an exponential quotient that is available through our community. You can go do that. We also put together a sprint process, which says if you're an existing organization, you can take this 10-week process, and again, this is also open sourced, and you can look at running a 10-week initiative to transform your business. And many people have taken this, they've stripped it down, they've done it in shorter time. But the main thing here is dividing up between core and edge. You do not want to be innovating drastically, trying to disrupt the core business. So you need to split out the core and edge. And we'll speak a little bit about that. It's a very short amount of time I have today, so I know things are going really fast. So the main issue we have within any organization is that it has an immune system. And disruption gets that immune system really going. And the best example, many of you might have come across it, is this one, the digital camera, which was developed by a Kodak employee. But the thing is the Kodak board, they looked at it and they said, wait a minute, this is far too risky. It's 0.01 megapixels. It is not good quality. We do not want to risk our business on this piece of technology. And so they decided to rather, patent it, but stick it in the basement. And we all know where this story has gone, right? In that, Kodak did file for bankruptcy in 2012, in the same year that Instagram was bought by Facebook for $1 billion. And so perhaps they didn't make the right decision. And so what we want to do when you are looking to leverage abundance, transform an organization, disrupt it, is you do not want the current organization to be radically changed. You just want to change it slightly. Perhaps you want to start using algorithms better. You want to perhaps, change just a few elements that don't change your business model. But you want to create exponential organizations on the edge that have new business models, that have different business models. And if we look at Marriott as an example, what if Marriott had come up with Airbnb, Booking.com, or TripAdvisor? And if you speak to the innovation teams, they will say that they came up with ideas very similar to these, but the corporate immune system crushed these ideas. And so it is really, really important to make sure that those are pushed out to the edge. And what if Kodak had said to Steven Sasson, go and develop this digital camera on the edge, and we'll let you do that. We'll fund you. We'll own 95% of the organization. What difference would it have been? Now, we don't have a crystal ball, so we have no idea. We can't go back in time. But we have seen organizations that have done this really can create disruptive innovation on the edge. And so that's really what I wanted to share today with you. Within the OpenExO community, we believe we are transforming the world for a better future. And, we really want people, who are out there, who are changing the world. And so I really hope that you who are watching enjoy this. It was like an extremely fast-paced, fire hose to the throat type of interaction that we've had here. But if this is something that interests you or excites you, please do reach out. We have quite a growing community within South Africa, OpenExO community, and so really excited to share this with you. If there are any questions in the last 3 minutes that we have, happy to perhaps jump in and answer them. And to those who've been on the call, thanks so much. I can see people like Craig and Vanna who are community members within our community, Sanjay as well. So always great to see our members of our community on, listening, sharing, really passionate about the fact that we can transform the world. We have an opportunity right now, especially with COVID and the world sort of ground to a halt, to shift the world to one that sees the abundance that is out there and is able to leverage that. And what that requires a lot of collaboration. It requires people coming together. We often talk about the fact that we can either have a Mad Max future or a Star Trek future. We all opt for a Star Trek future, a future where we use technology to really make a massive difference. We don't want a future where it's every person for themselves, where we're scrapping out over scarce resources, because that is not the future that we are able to build. We are able to build a future where abundance is the norm, where we can leverage the exponential technologies and do that. But as I say, that requires an immense amount of collaboration. It requires a lot of human ingenuity working together to do that. So thank you everybody for joining. Really great to be here, and congrats to the whole Campus Party team for putting this together. And yeah, thanks so much. Really enjoyed it. And to the next presenter, all the best to you, and have a great day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you, everybody.